In sports, every team has that guy you really seem to love. It could be for their personality, or maybe you just love how they play. And I'd say the Overwatch League is no different. It may be a team game, but everybody has their favorites, and that of course includes myself. Which brings us to a yearly staple here on this channel, my favorite player on every team. As a reminder, this has absolutely nothing to do with who I think is the best, and it's purely based on my own preferences, so if I don't pick one of your favorite players for a team and you complain about it, that is your problem, and I do not care. But of course, I do encourage you to make your own list in the comments below. Join me in spreading the love for these amazing players. But without further ado, let's get into the video, and starting us off is the Atlanta Reign, and unfortunately, I do not have a creative selection for you. For the second year in a row, Kai is going to prevail for me. As a former Valiant fan, Kai gave me something I was not expecting to have during 2020, and that, my friends, is hope. I mean, he really played at a crazy high level and carried that team to relevance at times. He became a superstar and one of my favorite players in the league to this day. And since the whole Valiant falling out thing, he's still someone that I enjoy watching a lot as he's helping the Reign stay relevant. He's a Valiant homie for life, and I'll always cheer him on no matter where he goes because he's just such an insane player, whether it be on Ashe, Cassidy, Widow, now Sojourn. I mean, the guy is elite, and he's probably my favorite hit scan in the entire league. Next, we've got the Boston Uprising, and it's funny because for a long time I'd say that this honor probably belonged to Crimzo, but after watching the way Punk's story has unfolded this year, that title now belongs to him. It's incredible to see him battle with 3 other tanks this year for the starting job just to always persevere. This dude literally won over the trust of his org over the coach. This dude literally won a battle by showing just how good he is. What a freaking legend. I mean, Boston are just a way better team with him in the game, and they're a lot more enjoyable to watch. I have mad respect for Punk for playing with so much fire despite all of the attempts to replace him, and the fact that he has stayed loyal to Boston these last couple of years is pretty awesome as well. Punk is a class act and just a really consistent player across the board, and I have nothing but love for the guy. The Chengdu Hunters. After their failure to really add any pieces during the offseason, I just gotta stick with Leave as my favorite player on this roster. Leave may not be an MVP form, but he still definitely is a sick player. His flexibility and unwavering mindset stick out big time when he plays. He's incredibly clutch, and this franchise would have very little relevance in League history if it weren't for his existence. This man deadlifts on a regular basis and is arguably the best player China has to offer. Back when he was very young, people thought that he would end up being a world-class player someday, and here we are a few years later, and I'd say that he has more than fulfilled that kind of potential, and it's not easy to deliver when expectations are absurdly high like that, you know? He faced a lot of pressure, but he really did handle it like a total champ. Leave is a god, and I love watching him play. The Dallas Fuel. So last year I went with Fearless for his ridiculous heroics, but the high has kind of worn off, so I'm more so looking at Hanbin as my new favorite player on this team. Hanbin has consistently been a top tier tank player since joining the league, and Overwatch 2 has not slowed him down. This man looks like an MVP candidate yet again, because not only is he consistent, but he carries on the regular. He's been the best player at his position arguably this year in 2 out of 4 stages. Watching Dallas rally around him has been truly special, and it's obvious that he is the glue that holds them together. Up next is the Florida Mayhem, and it can be pretty easy to pick someone for his personality or maybe Exy for the history, but I'm gonna go ahead and pick a rather underappreciated member of this roster. My favorite player on the Mayhem is Hydron. The man was pretty solid in contenders, but was asked to do a lot coming into this year for a Mayhem team with low expectations. But honestly, he's more than capitalized on the opportunity. Be it on Sojourn, Tracer, or something else, Hydron has been one of the most reliable playmakers on the Florida Mayhem, and the fact that he's getting playtime over a veteran like Exy makes what he's doing in his rookie campaign even more impressive. He stepped up to the plate big time, and for that, he earns my respect. When it comes to the Guangzhou Charge, I'm actually gonna go with a newcomer to their roster. Xerneas. He's been in this league since 2019 when he used to go under the handle known as Yveltal, and he's one of the only main supports I know with true entertainment value to them. He's always been a lot of fun to watch on Lucio and Mercy throughout the years, but last year he also proved that his brig is no joke either. His career has had some ups and downs for sure, and he's never been a god tier player, but he's mostly been reliable, and despite starting a new chapter on the Charge, that has continued to hold true. He's not always the most intelligent guy with his decision making and everything, everything, but dang does he make the main support position a lot more fun to watch. The Hangzhou Spark. I mean, this one just goes to Shy straight up. He's almost been keeping this team afloat by himself at this point. Even as the Spark have faced adversity, he has been insane. It takes a special kind of guy to look good no matter what the situation around you looks like. And it's proven that when the Spark actually give him proper resources, he can literally win games for them by himself. He's one of the only reasons to enjoy watching the Spark currently, and he's a true competitor through and through. This man hates losing with a passion, and he's always someone that you can count on to leave it all out there. The Houston Outlaws. I mean, there's a lot of likable personalities on this roster, but given my past, I have a strong affinity with Lastro. He gets similar love to Kai here since he also helped keep me interested in the Valiant back in 2020, but it's also worth noting that he's just a really fun player to watch. I love watching him pop off on Zen and, just hitting those big cooldowns on Ana, but I've also recently grown to appreciate his abilities at the main support position. It's not easy to transition to a different position ever, especially at this kind of level, but he has handled it like a true professional and has showed us all why he deserves to be in this league. It's only made me learn to respect him even more. He has stepped up big time in a new role for this Houston team and has emerged as a true leader. The London Spitfire. I could keep the trend of going with former Valiant players here, but how about we change it up? My favorite player on London this year happens to be Hottie. His personality has really shined this year. He has definitely won me over for spicing up the league with his Chad-like tendencies both in and out of the game. He gives this league a lot of well-needed personality, but also at the same time, I'm a big-time sucker for comeback stories, and Hottie certainly checks that box off. Because let's be honest, there were a lot of question marks about this guy after 2021, and people wondered why they kept him around, but he really did end up cracking down and showing big-time improvement. He's been a pivotal part of London's success, and he's an absolute joy to watch. His team playing around as Reinhardt is a huge part of London's identity, and it's really fun. The man has changed the perception and culture of London all by himself. Chatty is the real deal, and you cannot tell me otherwise. The LA Gladiators are up next on the list, and last year I picked Shu, and while I'm very tempted to go with him again, this year I'm leaning more towards Funny Astro. The man transitioned to a new home and has pretty much not missed a beat. His Lucio play is still elite, and he's easily one of the most enjoyable players to watch at the main support position. I'd argue that his Lucio has easily been the most eye-catching this year with how often he has been popping up in the kill feed. The man plays so aggressively on a not-so-flashy position, and I really appreciate that. And I'm also super happy for him, as he finally has gotten to win some things after coming close so many different times on Philly throughout the years. He deserves all of his success, and I'm glad to see him playing well. The LA Valiant. I know I've been hard on this team this year, but they do have players that I actually like. I could be like everybody else and just pick Dia, but I'd rather go outside the box and pick Marvel as my favorite player. I was a very big advocate for this guy back in 2019 when he took over the scene as one of the most underappreciated tanks in the league, which is why I found it real sad when Soul brought in Gesture and kind of messed up his potential career trajectory. That's why I'm really happy that here in the present, he has found a new home on the Valiant, because truly, I love the way that Marvel plays the game. It's a winning brand of Overwatch. He's a selfless player who still ends up making a difference. He's a great player and a great teammate. The alexyOWL. Yeah, let's not beat around the bush. It's Yaki this time. This group has been so insanely uninspiring in 2022. Yaki at times has been the only reason worth watching New York play in the first place. I know it's a harsh statement, but it's definitely the truth. But you can always count on Yaki no matter what to make a couple of great plays even if it's in a losing effort, and maybe he'll give you a false sense of hope. It takes a special kind of player to really put a team on his back like this. His Tracer and Genji are definitely top-notch still, and I can only imagine how much more people would be talking about him this year if he played for a real team. It's a shame that most of his heroics have to come in a losing effort. Watching his talents go to waste like this absolutely breaks my heart. I think with the right support around him, he could still be one of the best damage dealers in the world, and I pray that his situation improves very soon. The Paris Eternal. Considering pretty much everything I knew about Paris is gone now, it's kind of hard to pick any specific person. I'm not particularly attached to anyone at this point. But for the sake of the video, let me go with Dove. I've seen him make a couple of good plays for this Paris team when they actually do something right this year. His sojourn and general sniping abilities are pretty noticeable despite playing for a poor team. And his efforts definitely do not go unnoticed. He gets a lot of respect from his peers online, and it's easy to see why, because the man, to put it simply, is a mechanical wizard. He's found ways to impress, and he's made a lot of good plays to add to his highlight reel this year. And it's because of this that he just might have done enough to earn some tryouts next year, whether it be on Paris or somewhere else. He's a respectable player, and he definitely deserves your attention no matter what his situation currently looks like. The Philadelphia Fusion. It's really hard for me to say this, but I'm actually not picking Carpe for the first time in me doing this series. He's been pretty irrelevant lately, so how about we change it up? My favorite player on the Fusion currently is MN3. When I watch Fusion games, this is the guy who gets me excited. His mechanics are simply unrivaled, and any team could fall victim to one of his famous hot streaks. The way he dominated Seoul and Guangzhou those couple of times are some of the most memorable DPS performances of the year. MN3 is one of the most talented players in this league, and it's not even close. It's not often we see a guy make the entire enemy team cower in fear because of his accuracy. He is elite and is pivotal to Philly's success, and I appreciate what he does greatly. What a treat to watch. The San Francisco Shock. A lot of you might have expected me to pick Proper with how highly I've spoken of him this year, but I actually lean towards Finn as my favorite player on this team. I was a pretty big fan of him coming out of O2 Blast, but man has he dialed it up to a whole new level this year. He's a really strong and flexible playmaker for starters. I think he shows exactly why flex support is one of the most talented and stacked positions in this league. But I also just have tons of respect for him. He had the pressure of living up to Violet in Twilight, and he has found ways to do it this year. I mean, he literally pushed Violet aside and filled in for a job that he had done at the highest level possible for years. It's not easy to do something like that, especially as a rookie. This man has continuously proved his worth at the Overwatch League level, and I love him to death. The Seoul Dynasty. This team has a lot of awesome veterans on it, like Prophet, Smurf, etc., but for me, it's gotta be the rookie Vindime. This guy had so much riding on him this year. I mean, Seoul, how far they could go largely depended on if his skills could translate to the Overwatch League level. There were question marks about him. He was one of the only question marks on the team, mind you. We didn't know if his hero pool would be good enough. We didn't know if he could be a star player at this level. There were doubts, but he managed to put all of them to bed almost immediately. Credit goes where credit's due. He stepped up like a true veteran would in this situation, and has honestly been one of the best main supports in the Overwatch League. He's done everything that the Dynasty have asked of him, and more. Despite coming into the league as mostly just a break player, we have enjoyed watching him pop off on pretty much everything. Seoul absolutely made the right choice by taking a risk on this rookie. Vindime's the real deal. The Shanghai Dragons. While I love everybody on this roster, I'm going to continue rolling with Fate as my favorite player. He's an OG that really helped get me into professional Overwatch to begin with. He was on the first team I ever supported in the Immortals, and he helped bring a lot of good memories for me in Season 1 as a Valiant fan. He's just a reliable player that has always been there for me, you know? Wherever this man goes, success seems to follow him. He's a leader, a good overall player on whatever he's asked to play, and he's constantly been a reliable starter in this league for the better part of 5 years. Fate is one of the longest surviving OG players and has had an exemplary career. Fate will always be one of my favorite guys no matter where he plays. He's not always the flashiest guy in the world, but my emotional connection to him is easily one of the strongest. The Toronto Defiant. This one might be a little bit of a curveball, but my current favorite player on this franchise is Hoppa. There's just something about Hoppa's career and story that is really appealing to me. This guy's been on 4 teams in 5 years and still has a job in the league. Say what you want about this guy, but the fact that he's still around after all this time shows that he has some very desirable traits for an Overwatch League franchise. He's never been the best player, but he has found ways to make it work no matter what the system is. Most people either love or hate him, and I find it very interesting that I have been on both sides at this point. Like, every single year he's been on a different team, and I feel like we get a different Hoppa with every iteration. Both times on Philly, I'd say that he was just alright. On the Charge, he was very reliable. On New York, he had a low point, and now on Toronto, he is respectable yet again. I mean, we've gone in full circle at this point. I gotta respect the grind a lot. It takes a lot of willpower to not give up when you're constantly searching for a new home like he does. Hoppa deserves a lot of credit for sticking around for so long, and I respect the hustle. The Vancouver Titans. They aren't the runaway version of this team, but I found this group to be somewhat likable. And leading the way as my favorite player this time around is Aspire. The second-year pro has done a lot to impress so far. The Titans may not be very good, but he has certainly made his mark. His play on Sojourn has been absolutely lethal, and he's one of the most underrated in the league. A lot of what Vancouver has done this year has been centered around him and his playmaking. Their success largely depends on him, and I think it's great that he gets so much responsibility. It's cool to see him get this kind of chance to be a leader after showing a lot of promise on Toronto 1 year prior. He's not a god-tier player by any means, but he certainly does belong in this league with what he's shown us so far. It's great to see some American talent like him continue to be represented at the Overwatch League level. And rounding out the teams with team number 20 is the Washington Justice. And with a few guys to select from, it's pretty obvious who we need to go with. Their mystery sixth man, of course, off the bench, Bob from accounting. Just kidding, guys. It's gotta be Kalios. He may not be flashy like Decay, but he's got the good emotional attachment for me. Kalios had to prove himself over and over again after his initial stint on the Boston Uprising. So much hard work since the end of 2018 has been put into getting to where he is today. Lots of years of improving his hero pool, re-impressing his peers, getting his consistency better, becoming more reliable as a starter. All of it has led to this moment. And look at him now. He's a full-time starter in the league again, and he's a valuable member of an underdog Justice team. From Zarya Specialist to what I'd consider to be a pretty successful 6-year career. Much love to Kalios for sticking around for so long when things got tough. He's a real one through and through. But I mean, other than that, that basically concludes this video. And speaking of real ones, all of you who watched this video up until the very end are real ones as well. I hope you enjoyed it, and as it comes to a close here, I would really appreciate it if you could give this video a like and subscribe to my channel if you're new. And of course, like I said before, feel free to give me your own favorite player list down in the comments below. I'd love to hear about it. And until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.